Today on CityCast Austin, surprise! It's me, Kelsey Bradshaw, filling in while Nikki's on vacation. It's Friday, and around here, that means it's time for our Friday News Roundup. I'm here today with Maggie Quinlan, the news editor at the Austin Chronicle, and of course, our executive producer, Eva Ruth Moravec, to break down the big stories of the week. We're talking about Travis County's new $2 billion budget and what it will pay for, the new Austin Police Union contract, and how queer Texans are retaliating against the state. And you're going to want to tune in for that. It's very funny. We'd like to thank Tecovas, our exclusive launch sponsor. It's Friday, September 27th. I'm Kelsey Bradshaw, and this is what Austin's talking about. Hi, Maggie. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Eva Ruth.
Thank you.
Hi, Kelsey.
Hi. Okay, but so there's a lot going on. We need to jump in, okay? We can't be chit-chatting.
No time.
So this week, Travis County commissioners adopted their budget for the next fiscal year, and it is $2 billion, okay? That is so much money. And obviously the county has to pay for a ton of stuff. They have to pay for the county jail, elections, a mental health diversion center, on and on and on. Some of the big ticket items, a $70 million charge for a mental health diversion center, and that's to help keep people accused of nonviolent crimes out of jail. And then $15.5 million is slated for a program that will provide legal counsel to people at their first court appearance for crimes. And that's something that's been proven to help outcomes for people because they'll be able to access bail faster. So I think that's pretty exciting. And then $1.8 million is going to a new security office that will protect county officials and staff. And this has some drama attached to it.
Tell us. You've been all up in this drama, haven't you?
Well, so a few weeks ago, I believe it was the Austin American-Statesman broke a story about how District Attorney Jose Garza had asked for security at his home address because he was receiving threats. But this was something that the commissioners approved in private and nobody really knew about it. And that wasn't great. And we actually talked about it here on the podcast, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But so now, I guess because of that, they're okay, well, we're just going to do security for everyone who receives threats related to their job.
It's sort of crazy that we don't have this already for such a big city. And considering, I think with District Attorney Jose Garza, the number of just Fox News stories that are titled Soros-backed prosecutor,
right? Let's murder people.
Yeah, there are a lot of angry people. I mean, his home address was posted on social media. That's a little frightening.
Yeah.
Well, and so this new thing, it's like a whole other, it's like a little baby law enforcement agency. It's going to be 5 people tasked with this kind of security.
It'll be interesting to see who gets access to that security force. Because,
yeah,
I mean, is it going to be, what kind of threats? I saw that it's for any employee that receives a threat about work, basically. So elections are coming up. I mean, are people going to be, are they going to be ready for that? Is the security force going to be ready?
Yeah.
So it's just in case people don't know, Travis County commissioners are the city council for the county, and they're, responsible for setting the budget every year and figuring out how much to spend on everything. And, Travis County also supports the hospital. There's a healthcare district.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Central Health.
And they're also trying to, I guess this will be up for voters to decide in November. The commissioners are also trying to pass a tax rate increase that will fund childcare. But yeah, they're in charge of a lot. But $2 billion is still quite a large amount of money.
Well, do y'all have a favorite of anything I've listed out of what they're going to spend money on? I personally, I don't have children. I'm not a homeowner, so I can say this freely with no repercussions. But I am really excited to see if this childcare tax credit passes. That's what I'm most interested out of all of this. I think that would be really exciting, but I'm also not the one who would be paying more. So I don't know.
I mean, for me, the diversion center, I mean, this is something that the Chronicle has been writing about for a long time. And I mean, having toured the women's psych ward at the jail, that situation is so crazy. And not only is it bizarre and disturbing to be in there, but like when I was touring and I was with different sheriff's office employees, they're disturbed. It's like nobody thinks that what goes on in a psych ward in a jail is normal. So, and a lot of those people are there on charges that they are not competent to stand trial. And so they're just waiting out the statute of limitations until, like a lot of the people who are there will never go to trial. They're just going to wait in jail for a year or 2 years, having severe mental health crisis. So I think having a diversion center that prevents those kind of people or those kind of cases from ending up in solitary confinement for a year or 2 years is like so crucial.
Yeah, because that's not really helpful. Like nobody gets better on solitary confinement, you know?
Oh, yeah, no.
I think that'll be a good one. Just like to add to the mental health care, you know, kind of atmosphere here in Austin, like the state, there's a lot of need, and there are not a lot of state beds available, if any, at any given time. And there's definitely a gap between like what's around for kind of emergency care needs, like hospitalization for 30 days or however, I think that's the maximum. And then the next, like, you know, the next step of healthcare, mental health care. So it's definitely needed. I think personally, the first court appearances piece is really important, and you know, to just divert people even before they need to go to jail. And like, I think that jail is just such a disruptive part of someone's that, you know, some disruptive thing to happen in your life. And, you know, it affects work, childcare, you know, marriages. And it just, you know, it's really detrimental to people's livelihood. So I think that, doing this could be a really good option for helping people access bail faster.
No, yeah, it's absolutely exciting to see this stuff get approved. Like, it feels like this should have always been the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we are being sued. Like we're being sued over not providing counsel at first appearance. So yeah, we got to do that. Thank you, ACLU, for putting the fire under our butts.
Yes.
You know, sometimes that's how change happens.
Yeah. And a mental health diversion center seems like common sense to me. Why haven't we always done that?
Yeah.
Yes. And if you want to hear more about that, we did have an interview with County Judge Andy Brown on the pod a few weeks ago. And that was one of the big, he talked a lot about the diversion center as well as the child care tax rate question. We'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll put that in the show notes.
Hey y'all, it's Nikki. I have to tell you about Tecovas boots. I finally have a pair, and I don't know if y'all know this, but they're handmade, high quality, stylish, and they were comfortable right out of the box. Now, I know we buy everything online these days, but trust me, go get fitted for some boots at Tecovas, and they will also personalize them with leather stamping. So grab a friend and head on over to the Tecovas flagship on South Congress or their store at the Domain. Plus, good news, Tecovas is opening a brand new store for your Western wear needs just north of Austin on Main Street in Georgetown. So swing by for their grand opening party September 27th through the 29th for live music and freebies for the first 50 of y'all that get there. With 3 locations in town, you have no excuses. So that's tecovas.com, TECOVAS.com. Don't go gently, y'all.
Okay, speaking of arresting people, we have a story about the Austin Police Union contract. This has been on our minds for the past few weeks. They've been in talks forever about this. And after months of negotiations, the city of Austin came to an agreement with the union. and it's expected to go to vote on October 10th. City Council is supposed to vote on it then. But under the new contract, officers will be given a 28% raise over the next 5 years. So, Maggie, I know the Austin Chronicle has a big story related to the contract in the paper this week. Would you mind filling us in?
Yeah, sure. So Austin Sanders has been covering the G file for a long time. And basically what the G file is a set of personnel records that are confidential. And they include misconduct records and investigations, like records of investigations, interviews, and that kind of thing into police misconduct. And so that's part of what the contract hammers out. In addition to officer pay and benefits, it also determines to some extent how much oversight we have over the police department. So we wrote about what the contract does for the G file this week.
Doesn't the G file, isn't part of what's in there investigations of misconduct that don't get to a certain level of punishment? Is that right?
Yeah. So basically, something that is worth noting is that the G file is something that is carved out by state law, but a lot of law enforcement agencies in Texas don't keep a G file. It's something that you elect to keep as a department. So part of the deal with it is that if somebody is, if there's a complaint against an officer and Internal Affairs finds that it is credible and that officer is then suspended or fired, then that becomes public record. But even if the allegations are found to be credible, if the police chief decides not to discipline them, then it gets to stay in the file, which is obviously like a very strange dynamic, right? Like the idea is if we don't discipline you, also we get to hide this information. So yeah, that's a little whack.
Well, especially for the police department, right? Like a taxpayer funded needs to be very transparent department.
Yeah.
Right. And they were sued over that, right?
Okay. So in May 2023, Austin voters passed the Austin Police Oversight Act, which is a suite of kind of police reforms. And included in that was this direction that we cannot have these secret records anymore. At least they can't be secret from the Office of Police Oversight, whose whole job is to oversee the police. So they should be able to have these records, is what this law that we passed says. And when the city did not fully implement all of those suites of reforms, Equity Action, which wrote the Austin Police Oversight Act, sued and said, hey, you need to implement these reforms that voters approved. And last month, a judge ruled that, yes, we do need to open up the G file and get these secret records out. And then the city manager started moving toward doing that. This G file thing has been in court so many times because not only was there the lawsuit, but then also like every time a police officer is on the hook for like some kind of violent behavior, there's a whole section of the trial that's like, what do we do about the G file investigation on this guy who shot someone? So it's like, there's so much to keep track of with the G file. Who knows what'll happen?
Oh my gosh.
Well, and even I didn't know about the G file until all of this started happening. And I can't believe that exists.
So this contract may not even get passed, right?
Right.
Like it still needs to be voted on. It's like a tentative agreement.
Right. And we've been here before already with the last city manager, Spencer Cronk. He had come to an agreement with the police union and they negotiated out a contract. And then I believe city council said,
That's exactly how they said it.
Then we got a new city manager. We got a new mayor. Take two. We'll see what they do on October 10th. But it seems like there's a bigger chance of this one getting through.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess just coincidentally, we also now have a new police chief, Lisa Davis. So,
well, and this was something that Mayor Kirk Watson had like vowed that they would get done this year. And so if he vowed it, it has to happen.
We've been doing interviews with city council members ahead of the election. And I think everyone that we've talked to, every candidate has emphasized that we need to have a contract. I mean, because we've been out of contract for more than a year now.
Okay, so do you know why that matters, Maggie?
I mean, it matters for officers in terms of pay. I think most, if not every city council member would agree that we have an officer shortage and that is related to pay. I mean, we have a lot of officers who can't afford to live in the city, right? So that's a big problem. But also, yeah, we need to sort out this G-file stuff, and we need to sort out overall oversight following the Oversight Act.
Well, and like police oversight has been such a big conversation in the past few years. I wonder how the oversight community is feeling about this contract and what's possibly in it.
We've got a story on that next week.
Ooh, stay tuned.
They didn't get to see the contract.
Yeah.
Nobody did, other than the people who were involved in the negotiation until very recently. So I think what I've heard of is the oversight community kind of some grumbling. It's just that, oh, this is supposed to be transparent and we don't even know what's in there. So we don't even know if we do support it because we haven't seen it.
Okay, so for our final story for today's Friday News Roundup, we figured we'd end on a bit of a light note, something a little funny, a little weird. So recently we heard about a new policy that keeps Texans from changing the sex that is listed on their driver's licenses. There's also a new rule about this with their birth certificates as well. And there was a new internal email set up for employees to contact anytime someone tried to use a court order to change their sex. Okay, so new rule goes into effect, new email comes with it. And apparently, members of the queer community decided to retaliate. There were more than 80 emails sent to this email address. And only one was what the department was looking for. So it's already working great. The rest were apparently the result of a concentrated effort. For example, the email address was signed up for PETA's newsletter. They got emails from the Crazy Coupon Lady. They got emails from a gay pornography blog called Queer Me Now. Love Honey, a British company selling adult toys and lingerie. And then my favorite part of this story. A half a dozen emails were just copies of the Bee Movie script. And I just feel like we need to talk about the Bee Movie. Maggie, Eva, have you guys seen the Bee Movie? Important cue.
Maybe in childhood?
No. And I don't get it.
Oh, I'm so excited I get to explain this to y'all. So the Bee Movie, it's an animated film. It's an animated film starring Jerry Seinfeld as a bee.
Oh.
And I don't even remember what the central conflict is. Like, I think his bee colony, something like their honey is, something's bad is happening.
Okay.
It's not important. Like, the central plot is not important because the bee, Jerry Seinfeld, a bee, falls in love with a human woman who I believe is a florist. And like, they're together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fresh out of college, Barry the bee finds the prospect of working with honey uninspiring.
Yep.
He flies outside the hive for the first time and talks to a human.
Yes. I totally forgot that he's like, yeah, the bee life isn't for me. Like, I don't want to do honey production. I want to be like in the world.
How does the human florist fall in love with the bee? Like,
Eva, what kind of question is that? A florist? That's what bees love, flowers.
Apparently he's hilarious.
well, no, I get the bee attraction to the florist. I just don't see why it would be reciprocated.
Yeah, good question. I have no idea.
You've never been attracted to a bee? I don't know, man. Like, bumblebees are so strong.
Wow, Maggie, do you have something to reveal to the class? She's like, I'm actually dating a bee.
They're the biggest bees. They're so big.
Well, and Renee Zellweger plays the florist human woman that he falls in love with. And so it's like a stacked cast. Matthew Broderick is in here. John Goodman is in here. Kathy Bates is here.
Ooh.
It's got Oprah Winfrey is in this movie.
That's out of control.
Larry King plays B. Larry King.
What was wrong with us in 2007 that this is what we were making?
Oh, so much. So much. A meme that came out of this movie was like, I just remember people would be like, yeah, I bought this shirt and it has the entire script of the Bee Movie on it. Like, there was like a joke about like having the entire script on stuff. I don't really know why.
A masterpiece.
Yes.
Is it just like buzz, buzz, buzz?
Yeah, totally. No, it's a bee being like, my life as a bee, I hate it. I don't know. It's bad. But like, what do y'all think about this tactic? I feel like we should all be doing this when we don't like something.
I love it.
Okay, so the flex was that a half a dozen people sent the entire B movie script to this internal email address.
Correct. And the internal email address was, hold on, wait, let me.
You're going to say it so everybody can use it.
Well, no. The internal, no.
It's like DL something at dps.gov.
Yeah. Well, and the address was to like catch people from my understanding. It's so that employees could contact it.
Right.
And be like, hey, someone tried to use a court order to change their sex on their driver's license. So instead of they've gotten exactly one email like that. And the rest is like B movie, coupons, PETA, adult toys, gay pornography, B movie.
Also just some insults. Like, I like this one that says, oh no, someone is spamming your Gestapo list. Wow. No punctuation. Good little Nazi. A disgrace.
Oh, gosh. I will say, as a tactic, I got to give them points for the tactic overall. I do think that retaliating with unwanted email to this email address that was supposed to catch people doing something is very funny and a good prank, frankly.
It's a good prank.
The B movie script, it's so specific to like a slice of pop culture that I'm not sure the Department of Public Safety is tuned into.
Well, they are now. They're all like, watching the B movie.
They get the very first one and are just like, what the actual fuck?
Well, and I would love to know the behind the scenes of that. Like, I would love to know, like, did a bunch of people get together and they were like, okay, let's send them the script to The Little Mermaid. And someone was like, no, the B movie.
Dude, it's got to be a Reddit thread.
Yeah,
right. I saw that it was like a concentrated action item, like let's all email this address. But I'm also curious about like how they figured out, okay, you do crazy coupon lady, I'll do B movie.
I'll do B movie.
But, on a serious note, I will say, like, it's going to be the session again in January. And in Texas, the trans community does get a lot of attention, negative attention during that time.
Yeah.
And this was a policy that I don't think was a bill, like a legislative law.
Yeah, pressure from the Attorney General's office, which, Ken Paxton was trying to get a list of every trans person in Texas 2 years ago. Like, we wrote about this at the Chronicle, too. Of course, the Washington Post broke the news that they had been requesting from DPS a list of every person who had changed their gender. And DPS said no, because they said that they couldn't actually get that data together. But like at the same time, around the same time that Paxton was requesting that in 2022, he had like gone on TV and said that, the Supreme Court should overrule the decision that made Texas's sodomy law, not enforceable.
So on one hand, it's like, it's a funny action, but it's also like one of the biggest things that the queer community can do, or like a thing they can do.
I was going to say it's like a tactic. Like, it's maybe not like the best or the most effective or whatever, but it's like, that's something easy and that's something everyone could do, once you get a hold of that email.
So should we see the B movie if we haven't?
Oh my God, you should absolutely see the B movie. I was going to say maybe this will become a way to show your support to the trans community by watching the B movie. No, we should do other things.
Definitely.
Like vote.
Yeah.
Like vote.
Like vote. I hope everyone's going to vote.
Yes.
Not to be a bummer, but everybody really needs to vote.
That's not a bummer. I love voting.
So fun.
I wish I could vote all the time.
Every day.
The deadline to register is right around the corner.
In about a week. Okay, so after you've watched the B movie this weekend, we have a little tip for you. This week's Don't Go Gently tip for the weekend comes with a reminder. It's still Hispanic Heritage Month, and there are still plenty of ways to celebrate. On Saturday, head down to Fair Market at 1100 East 5th Street on the east side for the inaugural Sietes Juntos Festival. You'll have to check out their Mercado and interactive market experience with a ton of Latino-owned businesses selling art, food, drinks, handcrafted goods, and more. There will also be musicians and activities for the kiddos. It's free, but you have to RSVP on the Siete Foods website. Check our show notes for that link. We'll see y'all there. And remember, don't go gently, go into Tecovas. Maggie, Eva, thank you so much for helping me host, for helping me do the Friday News Roundup this week. I had so much fun.
Thank you.
So fun. Thanks, Maggie. Thanks, Kelsey.
Woo! Thanks, Eva. Thanks, Maggie. That's all for today here on CityCast Austin. Our executive producer is Eva Ruth Moravec. Our producers this week are Joyce Tang and Elizabeth Kama. And I'm your Hey Austin newsletter editor, standing in for host Nikki Devon. Music is by Nelson Valente Aguilar of Como Las Movies. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Austin newsletter. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Bye!